rely on like day in, day out, and obviously the company she's in.
I mean, it's incredible. She just can get a shot at any time. She gets a shot, for herself. Her gravity creates shots for everybody else. It's nice to know that you can give her the ball and let her go to work. There aren't a lot of players that can just create those kind of shots that she does. And I think for us, it's almost like a crutch. At times it's like give it to her and let her go to work. But I think it's just a result of Kelsey's hard work, man. Like she grinds. She loves this game. She just wants to play. She doesn't get caught up in any of the nonsense. And she just brings something new every year. And just proud of her.
Yeah, just to follow up on Kelsey being overheated, was there any concern of rhabdo like she had last year?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm not sure. She loves this game. She just wants to play. She doesn't get caught up in any of the nonsense. And she just brings something new every year. And just proud of her.
Yeah, just to follow up on Kelsey being overheated, was there any concern of rhabdo like she had last year?
Not that I'm aware of, but yeah.
Tonight, despite the injuries, a very tough game by the Tempo. Like they compete very, very hard. What was the hardest challenge that the Tempo posed on the court tonight?
Their offensive rebounds. I mean, the way they just crashed the glass. I mean, they're relentless. They're relentless on both ends, but they're relentless in their pursuit of the boards. Where they have 18 offensive rebounds. They play with great pace. We like to play with pace too.
Let me be absolutely clear about something right out of the gate. When someone calls it correctly, when someone looks at a situation, analyzes it with precision, and tells you exactly what is going to happen before it happens, they deserve their flowers. And today, we are handing those flowers over because what unfolded in Toronto was not a surprise to anyone who was paying attention. This was not a random event. This was not an anomaly. This was the inevitable conclusion of a chain of events that multiple voices in this space saw coming from a mile away. Venom Reacts called this every single take.
Before the FIBA break. Crazy. Kelsey Mitchell now going back to the locker room. We have not seen her in the fourth quarter. Obviously, that's a big developing story at 29 points in 24 minutes through the first three. The MVP candidate who's having a historically great season.
The MVP candidate.
To the locker room. And there's Steph White to talk to us about kind of the difficulty of making sure you don't play her too many minutes after seeing the way her body broke down in the semifinals against Vegas last year in Game 5. But how she never seems tired and can always go, but you have to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, for one, you clearly know that Kelsey, like I said, her body won't hold up like that for 4 quarters. We saw it last year in the playoffs. You need Caitlin Clark to spare you some plays where you can catch your breath. And that's where Kelsey Mitchell thrives in. But like I said, that's why Kelsey Mitchell never won anything. That brand of basketball will not win you games. You can't play 4 quarters running around everybody.
Every single word, 100% accurate. When the conversation came up last week about Kelsey Mitchell overexerting her body, the analysis was not speculation. It was not hot takes for the sake of engagement. It was a careful, methodical breakdown of what was happening to a player who was pushing her body past the limits that her game and her age could sustainably handle. And now, we have the receipts. We have the confirmation. We have the undeniable evidence sitting right in front of us, and it demands a serious, honest conversation. Let's go back for a moment, because context is everything. This is not the first time we have watched Kelsey Mitchell's body send her a warning signal on a basketball court. Cast your mind back to last year's playoffs against Las Vegas. She was not walking off that court. She was being carried. Carried. That image did not just disappear. It told us something important about how this player operates, about the physical toll her style of game extracts from her, and about what happens when the pressure of the moment pushes her beyond what her body is ready to absorb. So fast forward to this season and ask yourself honestly, what has changed? What is different about the environment around Kelsey Mitchell right now? Because she is not just playing basketball. She is playing with something to prove. She is chasing something. And the thing she is chasing is the WNBA Most Valuable Player Award. Now, let's be precise about this because it matters enormously. Kelsey Mitchell has always been a dynamic, explosive scorer. Nobody is disputing that. What we are examining is the why behind the intensity of this particular season. And the answer, if you are watching these games with clear eyes and an honest mind, is sitting right next to her in the same locker room, her own teammate, Caitlin Clark. This is where the story gets layered, because Caitlin Clark is not doing anything extraordinary to insert herself into the MVP conversation. She is not suddenly shifting gears. She is not dramatically reinventing her game to grab headlines or accumulate numbers. She is simply playing the way Caitlin Clark plays. That is her baseline. That is just what Tuesday looks like for her. And yet, by simply being herself, she has become a genuine MVP contender. That reality is sitting right in Kelsey Mitchell's lap every single day, and it appears to be pushing her to go beyond the threshold her body is designed to maintain. Look at the minutes from the game that started this entire conversation. Kelsey Mitchell played 24 minutes. Caitlin Clark played 33 minutes. And based on the trajectory of how that game was unfolding, had Mitchell not been removed from the fourth quarter, the estimates suggest she would have been sitting somewhere around 38 minutes on the night, approaching 40. For a player who has already demonstrated a documented history of physical breakdowns under playoff-level exertion, approaching 40 minutes in a regular season game is not ambition, it is recklessness. She posted 29 points in that game, with the majority of her damage coming in the first half, which tells you everything about the energy she was burning and the pace at which she was burning it. And then came today. Kelsey Mitchell was rushed to the locker room. She did not return. The reason? Overexertion. Her body finally said enough. It said the thing that anyone watching the pattern of this season already knew was coming. The human body does not negotiate. It does not care about MVP races or contract implications or what your teammate is doing on the other end of the floor. It simply reaches a point where it stops cooperating, and that is exactly what happened. Now, here is where the accountability conversation becomes unavoidable, because this is not entirely on Kelsey Mitchell. You cannot point the finger at a competitor who is wired to compete, who is built to push, and expect her to pump the brakes when the coach is not pumping them for her. The person holding the whistle, the person building the rotation, the person deciding who is on the floor and for how long, that is head coach Stephanie White. And Stephanie White carries a significant portion of responsibility for what happened to Kelsey Mitchell today. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. If Stephanie White had managed Mitchell's minutes with the kind of discipline that protects a player long-term, this moment in Toronto does not happen. If the rotation had been constructed with health sustainability at the forefront rather than short-term production, we are not having this conversation right now. But the minutes were extended, the rest was limited, and the predictable outcome has arrived exactly on schedule. And then Stephanie White faced the cameras. She said it was hot. She pointed to the weather in Toronto as the explanation for what happened to her star player. Let's look at that claim with the same intellectual honesty we are bringing to everything else in this conversation. The temperature in Toronto at the time of this game? 72 degrees. 72 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not a heat emergency. That is a mild, comfortable evening. That is the kind of temperature that people in warm weather cities consider pleasant outdoor weather. The suggestion that 72-degree temperatures caused Kelsey Mitchell to be rushed to the locker room and unable to return is not just inaccurate, it is the kind of answer that insults the intelligence of anyone watching. Just say what it is. Say it plainly. You played her too many minutes. Say that you did not build in enough recovery time within the game. Say that the structure of her rotation did not adequately account for the load she was already carrying this season. That is the honest answer. That is the answer that respects the audience and respects the conversation around player safety. Instead, we got a weather report from a city where the weather was barely worth mentioning. But the press conference did not stop there, and this is where things took an entirely different turn. Stephanie White used that media availability to call out Sophie Cunningham, directly, in front of the press. She looked into the cameras and essentially told Sophie Cunningham to stay out of the noise, stay out of the off-court drama, stay focused on basketball. The message was delivered clearly and publicly, and the moment was striking enough that the body language in the room told its own story. The look on Sophie Cunningham's face as those words landed, that was not the expression of someone receiving a routine coaching note. That was the expression of someone being publicly called out in a way that transcended the usual post-game messaging. Think about the significance of that moment for a second. In a single press conference, Stephanie White managed to blame meteorology for a player safety incident while simultaneously escalating an internal team dynamic by putting Sophie Cunningham on notice in front of the entire media corps. That is a remarkable amount of chaos to generate in one sitting. Now let's zoom out, because the Kelsey Mitchell injury concern opens up a much bigger conversation that her supporters and detractors alike need to sit with honestly. The playoffs are not far away on the horizon. This Indiana Fever team, with the way Caitlin Clark has elevated their profile and their performance, is going to be a team that people are watching when the postseason arrives. Kelsey Mitchell's availability and her physical condition in those moments will matter enormously. And if the pattern we are watching continues, if she keeps operating at this elevated intensity, if the minutes stay inflated, if the recovery is insufficient, then what you end up with is a player who arrives at the most important games of the year already running on empty. The regular season will have taken everything she had to give, and the playoffs will expose what is left. This also ties into a separate but connected question. Why is Kelsey Mitchell not playing FIBA World Basketball? This is not a minor footnote. International competition at that level is prestigious, it is competitive, and it is an opportunity for elite players to represent themselves on a global stage. But the argument that has been floated, and it has validity when you watch how she plays, is that the structure of international basketball does not suit how Kelsey Mitchell currently operates. In FIBA competition, you are not the first option. You are not operating in a system built around your scoring. You are a role player in a broader architecture of talent. And the version of Kelsey Mitchell we are watching this season, the version hunting an MVP trophy, playing 38-plus minutes, pouring in 29 points as a primary offensive engine, that version does not translate to a role player in international basketball. It gets exposed. The stat accumulation that works in an Indiana Fever uniform does not produce the same results when the system does not center itself around you. The inference is a reasonable one, that Mitchell assessed the landscape of international basketball, recognized that the context would not be favorable to the role she has been playing this season, and made the decision to sit it out. Whether that is the full picture or not, the absence is notable. And here is where everything connects into one central point that cannot be overstated. The pressure of this MVP race, the self-imposed intensity, the extended minutes, the physical toll, all of it is happening in the context of competing with a teammate who is simply doing what she does naturally. Caitlin Clark is not campaigning for MVP. She is not trying to edge Kelsey Mitchell out of anything. She is playing basketball the way she has always played basketball, and it is generating MVP-caliber results organically. That gap between someone straining to reach a level and someone inhabiting that level effortlessly is what makes this situation so difficult to watch. Because when you are pushing so hard to match something that someone else is not even trying to match, the body absorbs that strain, and eventually it presents the bill. Today, in Toronto, the bill arrived. The concern moving forward is not whether Kelsey Mitchell is talented enough. She is. The concern is whether the people responsible for managing her workload are going to learn anything from what happened today, or whether tomorrow brings the same rotation, the same minutes, the same explanations about weather and external factors, while the real issue goes unaddressed. Stephanie White made a significant error in judgment today. Not the comment about Sophie Cunningham, though that was its own remarkable moment of public accountability, but in the management of a player whose history of physical breakdowns was already documented and whose workload this season has been escalating beyond sustainable levels. This was preventable. The warning signs were visible. Venom Reacts saw them. Multiple people in this conversation saw them. And now, Kelsey Mitchell's body has confirmed what the analysis had already concluded. The question is whether this serves as a genuine course correction or whether it becomes another moment that gets explained away, filed under unusual circumstances, and quietly forgotten until the next time her body sends the same message in an even more consequential game. The playoffs deserve a healthy Kelsey Mitchell if she is going to be part of the conversation. The Indiana Fever deserve to enter the postseason with their roster intact and operating at full capacity. And Kelsey Mitchell herself deserves to have the people around her make decisions that protect her longevity, not just her statistics. But right now, based on everything we have seen and everything that unfolded today, there are serious reasons to be concerned. The pattern is established, the history is documented, the analysis was right. And until Stephanie White stops explaining away outcomes that she is directly responsible for and starts making the hard choices that keep her players healthy, we are going to keep having versions of this same conversation. The clock on Kelsey Mitchell's body is ticking, and no weather forecast in Toronto is going to change what the numbers and the injuries are already telling us. Get down in the comments. Tell me where you stand on all of this, because the story is not over, and the stakes are only getting higher from here.